Hello, I'm DIY Dick and welcome to the channel. Today I find myself in my utility room with some mess to make. Specifically, I need to create a hole up there in the ceiling. Now, I'm not just doing that to create work or mess, as indeed it may appear, but actually because I have to. We've actually had a new boiler fitted just over there behind me, and as lovely and shiny as that actually is, the actual gas feed to it is slightly, and I mean ever so slightly, below spec. So what I need to do is basically prepare the space to actually get the new gas pipe through to that gas boiler. And basically what that means is going through the ceiling void. So that's a bit of a pain in the backside, to say the least. Now we need to also create the run all the way down there, past the gate, and it is just literally just past the other, on the other side of that gate, on the other side of the fence, which is where our actual gas meter is. So it's not actually too far from that point of view, and that should be quite an easy run around the house. It's more going through the void. So I've actually been in this void before when I installed a sink and a radiator in our little WC just there. That's what's hiding behind that door. You're gonna have to trust me that I actually did do that. So I know what's up there. There's a load of electrics that are feeding various plugs, also the boiler electrics, pipe work too. So I'm planning to make a hole right about here, probably start with a drill and then start to cut that a bit wider just to make sure that I don't catch any of those services up there. And I think ultimately as well what I'm going to do is probably install an inspection hatch. I should have done that 7 years ago when I had the opportunity, but thought I'd never need to go back up there. Well, here we go. Here's that opportunity. I really have to go back up there. Did have the opportunity to basically run the new pipe work round the top of the wall, but I didn't really like the sound of that, and I quite fancied actually just dropping the new pipe work straight on top of the boiler where some of our other pipe work already is. So that's the plan, and today is really just to make a start, to make that hole and just make sure we've got things cleared for the access for the gas engineers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get changed, and then I'm going to start making some mess. So what I thought I'd do is actually speed up the video and then provide some commentary over the top as to actually what I'm doing. And as you can see straight away, detectors out. I'm trying to figure out where the electrical cables are, any pipe work, but also as well the joists, just so we can get that hole as central as possible in a good position. This is actually an abridged version of what I did. This doesn't actually show all of the work that I did with the detector. I actually spent quite a lot of more time just trying to see if I could find an area whereby really I wasn't actually detecting any of those services. Now, as you saw from the detector, it was showing an awful lot of red and amber. So really the last thing you want to be doing as a result is drilling in that location. But I knew from when I had to break into the ceiling void before that the actual cable, I knew where the pipe work was. I mean, I installed some of it to basically put a radiator in the room, and also as well a sink into the room on the left, which is the WC. So I knew where that was, and I also knew that the actual electrical cables were sitting on top of the insulation. So if I was really, really careful with the drill and also as well with the saw, I knew that I basically wouldn't actually get anywhere near that electrical cable. But also as well, and you'll see this on the video, that just after that initial hole was made, just to really just keep putting my hand through and just checking and testing, just to make sure, doubly so, even though I was very, very confident, to make sure that, you know, I wasn't going to catch it in any way, shape or form and cause myself even more problems, or obviously a serious injury. Now, when I originally broke into the ceiling for the first time, the area really didn't have any cables or pipe work. So, and that's really the key message. You know, if that's the whole point of using a detector, really just to keep you safe and stop you causing more problems. Certainly, if you go for any sort of water pipe or anything else. But I just had confidence here and knew what I was doing because I knew where their services were. Hence, I'm doing what you can see on the video right now. So whilst the kettle's boiling, I thought I'd just bring you in so you can look up and see what I can see in the ceiling void. So let me just spin you around so you can see that now. So straight away, the first thing to note is the electrical cables here that the detector picked up. But beyond them, if I get the torch on, hopefully you can see the roof joists as well, just in there. Now there's not a great deal of space, and that's really one of the reasons I actually put the hole where it is, just to really give as much possible chance for the engineers to actually get up into the void and install a gas pipe, but it's still not going to be easy. So what I've got to do next is make the hole a bit bigger. The other joist is just over here, not quite as far away as I was hoping, but should be far enough to be able to squeeze through. But make the hole bigger, and then after that just see what I can do with the electrics, just see if I can move some of those wires around. So if memory serves from when I was up there last, there is a little bit of wiggle room, a little bit of slack in some of the cables, so hopefully it's enough given where I'm putting the hole. So I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger, and then we'll get into that and see what's possible. Now the order of business is to expand and open up the hole widthways, joist to joist, as well as lengthways, just to enable a person to actually fit through into the gap and give them a chance of fitting the new gas pipe. So one of the things, other than actually getting messy and getting lots of plaster in my face, that I'm trying to do as I go through this is constantly push and move the cables out of the way. One of the things that I was really conscious of as doing this is moving things out of the way, moving the cables out of the way, and then having them just fall back into position. The cables just above, as I think I've mentioned before, are just sitting on the insulation. They are tacked into place in some locations on some of the joists, but generally there's actually quite a lot of slack and a lot of movement up there. So it was just very wary of it moving after I've moved them and falling back into place, and then me obviously cutting through a live electrical cable. Now that brings me on to another point, because I did this in daylight, always a good time to do DIY, but also as well, I mean, I could have used torches as necessary, but one of the things that I could do, or could have done, was to actually turn the electrics off to the house. Now, I think if I was actually going into a gap or going into a space where I knew there were live electrical cables and I really wasn't sure of what was up there or how it was orientated, then I think that would be absolutely the right approach to take. And to be honest with you, doesn't hurt anyway. But I was really quite confident of what was there given my previous experience. So, you know, I felt fine to actually continue as is and just expand that hole out, given what I'm doing. Still just being really careful that, you know, I don't push the saw too far in a direction it doesn't need to go. So I've got my bigger ladder, and we've certainly got a bigger hole. So I should be able to now fit myself through. Perhaps not all of me, because there's not a lot of space, which you'll see again in a minute, but certainly you should be able to get most of me and get a really good view as to what's going on up there in the loft. I keep wanting to call it a loft. It's not really a loft, it's really just a void. But anyway, let's get up there, let's have a look, see what we got. Well, that's a good start, as I can actually fit through, but not by much. Let me get some light. Right, there we go. So that is the outside wall of the house, and that's the air brick there, just going into our little alleyway. So that's really good, and there's really good access to all of that. So pleased with that. That's looking good. Okay, so just spinning round really slowly. Loads more electrical cables that you can see there, and also somewhere down there, right, there we go, somewhere down there is actually the top, or just above the boiler, just beyond the chimney breast right here. So, you know, not really a great deal of space, and we've got these pipes here that are actually going down to a radiator that we've got in the WC. So there's not a great deal of space to crawl underneath, but there's actually more than I thought there was. So I think if I go and find a board and see if we can actually put that in, and that will enable the engineers to actually crawl down there and hopefully put a pipe, fix a pipe right round here to where we need to go. Now, one of the things we're going to need to do is move some of this electrical cable on. As you can see, some of it's actually pinned to some of these joists here, so there seems to be quite a nice bit of flex. I mean, that's going to the lighting socket over there, and also as well some of the plugs in the far end. So there seems to be a nice little bit of flex, and we should be able to move those around a little bit, just give us a little bit more space, because as you can see, they're all the way around us. So thank you for joining me again today on this part 1 of Making a Mess video. There will be a part 2. We've still got to get a date from the fitters to when they come back, probably going to be a week or two away, and knowing me, I'm going to be a couple of weeks after that before I actually then come back to this and get this done, given everything else that I've got going on at the minute. But the important thing to do today was to basically just get this space available so they can actually get in, and when they do turn up, and access everything they need to access. I need to go away and tidy up now, and also have a bit of a shower as well, which I'm really looking forward to. I'm also going to have a look at some of the sizes of loft hatches. Now I know the sizes here between the joists definitely, and I can measure them out, and I can then look to figure out what I need to buy and then come back and size this hole accordingly. I don't want to take too much, I just wanted to make it just big enough to actually fit through. So looks like that's achieved, and we can come back another day and tidy this up, as I said, in a very likely a few weeks time. So as I said, thank you very much for joining me. There'll be more videos to come. Please subscribe, and hope to see you soon again on the channel.